Hi BookTube, it's Marianne at the Last Wear Book, and today we are doing a Kindle Unlimited historic romance haul. So during the historic romance readathon, I found an author whose books I absolutely loved. Her name is Emily Windsor. All of her books are in Kindle Unlimited. Please go and check them out. She is amazing. And I wanted to go and look and see what other books that she had. And while I was there, I thought, right, I'm just going to clear out all of the Kindle Unlimited books I've borrowed and just download a load of historic romance and see how good they are. So I have 10 historic romances here, and 5 of them are in a series, 3 of them are in a series, and the other 2 are as standalones. But the ones that are in a series can also be read as standalones. So I went on to Goodreads to see what order that the books in the series went in, and every book that I downloaded has over a 4-point rating on Goodreads, so I'm taking that as a good sign and that this is going to go well. If it doesn't go well, that's just my luck, but it's going to be fine. So I'll start with the author that actually made me go to Kindle Unlimited to begin with, and that author is Emily Windsor. So the first book I downloaded was An Earl in Wolf's Clothing by Emily Windsor, and the main character Sophie, she has her heart broken, runs away to Ireland, comes back to London, and the Earl that had broken her heart is trying to get her back because apparently it was some big misunderstanding that she was left heartbroken, and the story is basically him trying to get her back while she's trying to be this strong independent woman and no fall for his charms again. The next book I downloaded was Let Sleeping Dukes Lie. The Duke in the story, Andrew, is very arrogant, standoffish, cold, and aiding the female character sort of likes to wind him up. So they end up forming an attachment, and she is trying basically to figure out how to get through his troubled heart and win him over because he's very anti-marriage, anti-love, so I assume that there is something that's happened in the past that's gave him this attitude. So the next book I downloaded was A Marquess to a Flame. The Marquess, Jack, he is a spy for the crown and has to go to Cornwall to basically charm secrets from a woman, and the woman in question is Tamsin, and he ends up going to her to charm the secrets out of her, and he ends up smitten with her, and the romance sort of builds from there. Those 3 books are part of the Rules of the Rogue series. 3 books and 1 novella. I didn't download the novella yet because it's the Christmas one, and typically I don't like holiday themed books, so I'll wait and see how much I enjoy the series, and then if I become really invested in it, I'll get the novella. So I haven't read a Highlander romance in a while. It's been a minute. So while I was on there looking, I went and picked up a couple of Highlander romances by Celeste Barclay. The first book is called His Highland Lass. So the Mackay clan and the Sinclair clan are feuding, and the Laird, Tristan, decides to arrange a marriage for his stepbrother with a female from the other clan. Now here's where I've been scammed, because all of the female names in this series of books have the original Gaelic spelling. So I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm pretty sure I have got the pronunciation of most of them okay. So the female character Mairgad, who is from the opposite clan, comes to marry the stepbrother, and Tristan sees her and is like, oh my god, the woman of my dreams. She thinks the same when she sees Tristan, and they end up falling in love. Unfortunately, this means she's going to have to piss off the stepbrother because obviously she doesn't want to marry him, and Tristan has a mistress who is also going to be pissed off because he's going to want to sort of go and marry Mairgad instead. So we have like 2 love triangles going on at the same time. The next book I have is His Bonny Highland Temptation, and this story centres around the character of Susan, who is essentially abandoned as a child. Her father leaves her at a castle and she ends up becoming a servant. Her mum died in childbirth and her dad just can't be arsed. and she ends up working as a servant in this castle. Her dad shows up one day and announces that he has organised this engagement with Callum, who is the clan heir. Susan isn't really vibing with the idea, but obviously she has to go and visit anyway to meet her betrothed. The two of them instantly hit it off, but unfortunately Susan's clan and a few others decide that they're going to try and keep the two of them apart. It's going to be them fighting to stay together because everybody just wants to tear them apart. The next book I downloaded was his Highland Prize. Alexander finds a woman who has collapsed outside the castle and takes her back in so that she can be nursed back to health. And the woman, who calls herself Bridget, she's basically hiding her identity, so she's got all of these secrets and is covering up who she actually is, and they're trying to get to the bottom of who she actually is. But someone has figured out where she is, goes and finds her, and Alexander then has to prove to her that he's willing to protect her and love her and take care of her. She has to kind of learn to trust him and trust that he's going to protect her, rather than just feeding her to the wolves and going back to whatever life that she is going to be resigned to living if she goes. The next book that I downloaded was his Highland Pledge. The two main characters, Marquess and Deirdre, have a romance that blossoms when they're young teenagers, and they write letters to each other, and it's all sweet and lovely. And they decide to have a hand-fasting ceremony. Now, a hand-fasting, if you're not familiar, it can be used as a temporary marriage or an unofficial betrothal, and people do still do hand-fastings today, but they are not the sort of traditional Celtic style that would have been done in the old days. So they get caught doing this hand-fasting ceremony, and Deirdre's parents are horrified and they take her away, and she goes to be a lady in waiting at the court. So 7 years later, Marquess goes to the court to speak for the Sinclair clan, and he sees Deirdre there. Deirdre sees him. They've loved each other all this time. He loves her, wants to be with her, but she's stuck in a point where she is this lady in waiting. She is responsible for her parents' social class and how they're going to progress. So she has to decide between what she's expected to do from her parents and what her heart is telling her to do. Is she going to go down the path of love? Is she going to go down the path of duty? The next book I downloaded is his Highland Surprise. Tavish is notified that he is going to be having an arranged marriage, and the woman in question, her name looked like the name was pronounced Seat, but apparently it isn't. Apparently it's just pronounced Kate, but I think it's Seat. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Unfortunately, her clan is like heavily despised by everybody else, and this is sort of extending an olive branch from her clan to say, look, marry up, everything's going to be fine, it's going to be chill, let's just be buds, and you know, it's going to be fine. So they end up falling in love, but she doesn't quite realise just how dangerous it is, the situation that she's in, and Tavish has to swear to protect her and look after her and just love her. The series that those 5 books are from is called the Clan Sinclair series. I believe that there is 1 or 2 novellas that go with it, but don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure. The next 2 books are standalones. The first one is Allured by a Lord's Touch by Megan Sloan. And we have Lady Sarah, who doesn't want to get married. She's got no interest in love. She just wants peace. But she goes to this event and meets an Earl called Patrick, who she begins to fall in love with. He falls in love with her, but there is deceit in the air. So it turns out that Patrick isn't actually an Earl. He's an orphan, and he went to this event pretending to be an Earl as a bet. And in ordinary circumstances, the two of them wouldn't actually be allowed together because it was forbidden or like frowned upon for ladies to marry out with their class. So they have a forbidden romance story thing going on here, and I love historic romance trope where they fall in love and they're of different social classes. So he has to tell her and deal with this web of lies he's created. We have to see if their love can withstand the lies and the deception and all of that, to see if they have a happily ever after. The last book I downloaded was A Governess for the Earl by Eleanor Keating. So Delia, she applies to become a governess for the Earl, who has 2 children, and their relationship forms from there. That is the only information that I have in this book. So all of those books are on Kindle Unlimited right now. If you're trying to decide and you're swithering as to what you want to get, I would start with Emily Windsor. She is an amazing author. All of these have a 4 and higher rating on Goodreads. The majority of them have 4 or 5 stars on Amazon reviews. So that's all of the Kindle Unlimited books that I have currently on loan, and hopefully I'll be able to get through them quite quickly. Also, I'm looking for more Highlander recommendations for books. If you have any that you really love or that are kind of under the radar, they're not extremely popular, please tell me in the comments. I've never read a Highlander romance that I didn't love, so fire away with the recommendations. So happy reading, stay safe, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.